Hey guys, thanks for checking out the Bucked Up Podcast. If you wouldn't mind just hitting the subscribe button, sharing the video, we have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday. Enjoy.
It was at this moment that he knew.
He bucked up.
Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you have fucked up.
Man, thank you so much for coming on. It's kind of funny how
for having me, Sam.
worlds collide. I want to shout out, I asked Genesis, shout out Genesis,
Shout out Genesis. Genesis knows that's my ride or die.
Henny Rock.
Come on, shout out to Genesis.
I asked her, I was like, oh, do you want me to ask her anything? And she was like, the last time you guys performed together.
Ooh, she wants to go back to high school memories.
Yeah.
There we go. We could do that because that's one of my favorite memories. Shout out to Genesis. Genesis really is like my ride or die. That's
I understand.
We made a pact in 6th grade that we would win Grammys together. So like that's solidified.
She supported me from the beginning through a lot. And
Everybody
still
needs a Genesis
to
in their
this
life.
day.
Everybody needs a Genesis in their life. But even though in in middle school, Genesis is gonna be mad I'm saying this, but in middle school we used to be like enemies, and then we became best friends in like high school. But nonetheless, the last time we performed together, it was in high school, and I remember it was in the wake of the killing of Michael Brown, actually. So it was a very somber performance, but it was very powerful and it was very necessary. And as two of the only students of color at the entirety of the school, to a few, we really took that moment to speak in a way in which I don't necessarily know if we were heard at the time, but to at least speak. And I think that people heard us later. I started to realize. So that was a very, very powerful performance. I think anytime Genesis and I come together, we do great things. So that was definitely a time to remember. And that was very pivotal in my own career, because I think that was the first time that I'd expressed myself in that way to that demographic in terms of my performance art. So.
Not that that's a positive thing, because of course that's very sad, but
Right.
like that your music is very connected to that. So that is one of those like omens in that it
Absolutely.
definitely pushes you forward, that was your like last performance. And were you always serious about it? Was it always like this is
I was
it?
always pretty serious about music.
So you tried graduate school
I did.
and now you're focused on
See, you
music.
did your research, Sam. A lot of people don't know that, but I did. I was enrolled at NYU. I was doing a master's in public administration program following my time at Howard University, where I studied political science, philosophy, and economics. But I've always just really been trying to figure out what it is that my role to play is in the grand scheme of the justice system and just in the interest of my people in general. And so whereas I once thought it was maybe through law or through policy, just, whatever I could get my hands on, I realized that it's much more effective through music, and I have a much larger platform to be able to speak to and express certain things that, I might not be able to do in a courtroom or through policy, unfortunately, just given the infrastructure of this country. So I definitely think I've found the role that I play now in that struggle.
I was watching some of your videos before this, and I was reading the comments and shit. And not that I know you're still at the beginning of a long journey, but you are hitting people in that way and connecting with people in that way. And it's crazy, not crazy, but the outpouring of love and like knowledge. Because that's what I love in music and everything. And comedy is like, there's a hidden message and there's knowledge that can be learned not just from the standard way of doing it.
And I really appreciate that. I definitely think that in every song I try to I don't want to necessarily say teach. But I definitely try to express the things that I know. And I think that transference of knowledge is very important. And I definitely think that music hits harder when people can learn something or feel something from it. It's great to be able to bop your head to it, but it's awesome to also be able to be like, you know what, I understand that. I feel that on a way that affects and impacts me. So that's always important to me as well.
So you went to Howard, which of course is very impressive.
HU,
Yeah, that's. And so did you know that music and that putting that into your music was always going to be a part of it, or did you kind of have the world separate and you have to mesh them later?
Well, interestingly enough, and it's interesting that these narratives are always told through my music, but it's really just the narrative of my life, I guess, as a black woman in general. But music has always been a passion of mine, but it was also a matter of, what can you do to make sure that you will never be broke as a black woman in America. And so there are so many musicians in this world, and I had to make sure that I had an equally successful backup plan for lack of other terminology. And so, I was wanting to make sure that there was something that I could fall back on. And so for me, I was thankful enough to have access to the education that I did. And so the fallback plan was, I want to make sure that I'm well-versed in policy so I can at least take it that way if music doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, of course, music was always is always my first love. I always knew I wanted to do music, and I probably knew that since the 3rd grade. And interestingly enough, the reason I even got into music was also just going back to that, survival idea, but it was what can you do to make sure that no matter what, you'll never be broke as a black woman in America. If you can, pick up an instrument, you can go into any bar at some point in time and say, hey, I might not have a job in this, and this, but I can play. Can I get on your stage and make money that way? So, it all comes full circle.
Was that something you realized yourself, or was this something that was passed down?
That was something that
onto
was
you?
instilled into me. And so, quite literally, that was one of the reasons as to why my parents were so adamant on my playing instruments. To make
So
sure
they were
that-
they were supportive
absolutely. I was classically trained in the piano, and that was actually something that I was interested in when I was younger, but I was forced to do it a little bit too.
of it.
And that's because, again, my parents wanted to make sure that their children had certain skills so that they could never be broke in America as black women, my sister and I. But nonetheless, I was forced to play piano a little bit, and I loved it, but I hated it. We had a love-hate relationship. I hated being inside practicing while I heard kids playing outside. That was like the worst
Yeah.
thing ever. But I'm so grateful now to have that skill.
Discipline.
Absolutely, and it teaches discipline as well. And once you learn how to play the piano, learning other instruments and production and the things that I'm into so much now becomes a lot more simple.
The live music aspect is. It was probably just on your Instagram maybe a couple days ago. You were doing it. It was a drill beat, and you had live drums on it. And it was fucking. That was so. I loved that.
Thank you.
And the
thank you.
live music of it. That's why we were talking before this. Like I get to see Jizza, Talib Kweli, and a live jazz band at the Blue
Which is
Note,
gonna
which
be
is
awesome. I already
insane.
know.
But like live music with that is. It really does bring a different vibe to it and a completely
Absolutely.
different energy.
Absolutely, and MIDI instruments go a long way. That digital revolution has been great, but there's something beautiful about that hybrid and how you can mix, electronic sounds and actual classic instruments, and what you can do with that, and how experimental you can be. It just you're really allowed to think outside the box, and I think that that's something that people can feel, that rhythm that of natural instruments. So when you put that together with electronic sounds, I think the possibilities are endless.
Was it always like R&B, hip hop, rap?
Interestingly enough, my biggest song to date is called Like Records that I did in middle school, and it's a house record. It's a house-
Really?
yeah, it's a straight up house record.
And you were in
With,
middle
I
school.
was in middle school.
All right, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I produced that with someone by the name of Strike, who was a mentor of mine, and Jensen McCrae, and that was something that we just kind of did. I was just playing around with sounds. At that point, I'd solidified that I wanted to be in music, but I hadn't necessarily found exactly my sound.
Just playing around with sound. So did
Yeah.
you knew that you had a special connection to like sound?
You know what? I think, everything about anything sonic just really intrigues me.
Yeah.
Most definitely. But to me, it's about communication as well. And so how can I use sounds to communicate with other people and other individuals? And to me, it's always the same. It goes back to reaching back to my ancestry. And I feel like we can do that through syncopation and just that feeling. I say all the time, I hope people can feel me in the music, because there's something different when you can feel it. And I think that sonics can sometimes speak to the collective conscious. There's a way in which we can collectively feel a rhythm on a certain level where we can communicate with it.
Do you have music in your bloodline, in your history?
You know what? Interestingly enough, there really are no professional musicians in my bloodline, but everyone loves music. Everyone loves music. And so even my parents, they tried to play some instruments. They didn't really have the means to take lessons or anything, but tried to play instruments here and then, and wish they would have stuck to it just because they're lovers of music. But really no professional musicians. I will say a cousin of mine is Nat King Cole. a cousin of mine.
really?
So time
So,
out.
okay,
So you know what?
wait,
I gotta
are you
take that
kidding?
back.
Yeah,
A distant
all right,
cousin of
all
mine.
right,
He's my Nat King Cole. I believe is my third.
Yeah, that's
third cousin.
all right. Because
So
you're
that
talking about
counts.
syncopation and reaching back
And you know
feeling
what?
that. So
that's
is
very
like
important. That's
that
very
is.
important. That's very, very important.
That is very important.
Absolutely. That Nat King Cole is my third or fourth cousin. I believe,
That is
on
why.
my grandmother's side. Absolutely. You know, just recently I realized that a lot of people in my family can sing. I didn't even know that, but I was back home recently, and I heard all of these beautiful voices just singing gospel music, and I was like, you know what? With the right push, everyone in this family probably could have been a very, very successful musician.
So you started with instruments.
Mm.
Were you ever singing like young? Were you doing that too, or did
I was. I don't necessarily consider myself a singer as of now, although I do occasionally glide
You
with
have
some auto
you have a couple R&B songs.
Absolutely, I
that
will
are really.
definitely. You know, I know how to hold a note. I'll say that. I can
No, you're a
definitely hold
great
note.
singer.
Oh, thank you,
Fucking
Sam.
humble,
Thank you,
but
Sam.
yeah.
But I sang in the choir when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And I thought I was Beyonce probably when I was like 5. So, you know, a little singing here and there. But,
Yeah. How about rapping?
Rapping, I tell this story all the time, but when I was in the 3rd grade, the song My Baby by Kanye West
Mm-hmm.
no, it's not by Kanye West. It's by Janet Jackson, of course, featuring Kanye West on the Dmt album, track number 5 to be exact. But that song I probably played over and over and over, just on repeat for the whole entire. And you couldn't get away from the song if you were next to me. But there was something about that song that really, really made me want to do music. I memorized his verse, and I loved the guitar sounds of that song. And that song really had an impact on me. That and Tupac's Changes. And I'd say that's when lyricism really came into the mix. It was sonics with My Baby, but then it was really the lyricism of songs that I was hearing from Tupac that really made me stop and think, even as a 3rd grader, you know what, he's really saying things that are impacting me.
Even as a 3rd grader.
Absolutely.
And were you writing? I don't know how to describe it without it, like meaningful. But like
I sure hope so. I think just in general, I think I write about my existence as a black woman in America. So I think, you know, now I'm writing as a black woman in America. Before I was writing as a black child in America, but the experience is all, you know, very much in the same light. So
did that? I mean, I guess going to Howard, that it didn't really affect you negatively. It probably helped you.
I sort of hope so. Absolutely.
I mean,
Shout out to
it
Howard.
very different that if you went to, like,
A PWI.
yeah,
predominantly white
exactly,
institution.
yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
That would probably.
And you know what? Interestingly enough, because I want to touch on this too, I think one of the reasons I was so ready to go to Howard was because I went to a predominantly white institution. You know, and shout out to Genesis again. We were one of the, you know, few students of color, but I went to a predominantly white institution for the majority of my upbringing, and so, you know, having been surrounded by that for so long, luckily I was in a position where I was not isolated from my people and my culture, and my parents did a very good job of reminding me of where I come from, so that, you know, only when I was at school was I isolated from certain environments. I still went home and was able to be in those environments. I'm rambling now. What were we even discussing, Sam?
Do you
Nonetheless,
even know
I went to
what?
predominantly white institutions.
Oh
growing
no,
up.
I actually do remember. I'm a
Uh-huh.
professional. I know where we're going. I'm
But-
in control. We were talking about like your music, how it helped you in college, like get your message out that you going to Howard, you weren't like scared of people.
Not at all. So I
Seeing
was
that
also gonna
side of
say,
you.
Yeah, I think having gone to predominantly white institutions, I kind of started speaking to multiple audiences. I gained a different perspective. So I was able to speak from, you know, the inside looking out, but also the outside looking in, for lack of other terminology. Once I got to Howard, it was a wrap. Everything that I was ready to do pre-Howard, I was doing at Howard.
You know what happened at NYU that made you pull the plug?
You want me to be entirely honest, Sam? Now that
Yeah,
we're
I
on this
do.
topic
That's
like
it.
this?
Yeah, this is bucked
I think
up.
that I'd gotten so used to being in an environment where I was seeing, you know, just black genius and intelligence, that I wanted to be submerged in that again. Truthfully, that's probably what it was, but it was also just a matter of I was so focused on music at that time, and so music had always been my plan, and I'd always decided that once I graduated, which I really graduated from my mother, like that's really why I graduated from college. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I told my mother that I would, and I know that my parents worked too hard to do certain things to ensure that I got to the point where I could graduate from college, because that's not, just a
Do you
given
feel like that
privilege.
time was beneficial at all?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. But the plan was also always to do music. So, after I finished Howard, I was like, yeah, now I just have to take it all the way. And so I was trying to do the NYU thing. I really was. But I was hearing sounds in my head, and it was getting to me, and I couldn't sit in that lecture hall anymore and force it. It just wasn't going to work.
So did you take it, when did you realize that you were like, nah, I'm all in? Was it before you graduated or after you graduated?
I think I was always all in, but I always wanted to have a backup plan just in case.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I said,
But
forget the
you're
backup
out. Yeah,
plan.
that's what I mean. Like, when was the backup? When was it like, no, I'm
Definitely once I knew that I had my BA, once I knew that I had at least 1 degree under my belt, I was like, all right, now I just got to focus on the music. That was enough.
Is that
of a
when it
backup
started
plan for me.
taking? I mean, you said your biggest song to date was in middle school, but like, do you
Well,
feel
let
like
me not say that. Let me not say that. The biggest, of course, is still my freestyle to the If I Ruled the World beat, which has gotten the most recognition. But that's probably what has the most streams, which that's under a whole alias. People wouldn't even be able to find that. Hint, hint. But nonetheless, I'm sorry, Sam. Go back to what you were saying. I have terrible ADD, by the way. This is
I do
something
too.
now
That's
that
why.
people know about me. Surprise.
Nah, I'm the same way. No, I was asking when your plan was like, I'm focused on music. When was that? When did you realize? Like, what was that point?
Yeah, definitely. Once I had my degree under my belt, I knew that I could
Yeah.
focus entirely on music. 'Cause I
And
felt
you,
like I
but
had
you
a
did go.
solid
But
background.
this is. But you
Or
did
backup
go.
plan, rather.
You did go to NYU.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sam, I
there
was
is
forcing
a.
it so hard.
I know.
I was
So what
forcing
was
it
the
so hard,
point
Sam.
after that? There has
The
to
point
be.
after that?
Yeah.
But
What
you
was
know
the
what?
point when
it
you're
didn't
like,
get
I'm
that
done?
far. Let me say that, Sam. It didn't get that far. It
Yeah.
really didn't get that far.
But there was a point.
No, there was definitely. I love it. No, I don't even know what point it was. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
One day.
I just stopped. I'm not doing this anymore. But it really did not go that far, Sam. This was probably.
Were you in a bad place?
This was probably a month in.
Okay.
This
were
was
you
probably a month
were you
in.
dark at that point?
Probably. And I think that it had gotten to a point where there was a lot of stress, and I knew it's something that I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to be in a dark place. It's like, if I have the access, if I know what makes me happy, why would I not choose to make myself happy at that point? It's like, you have the
yeah.
knowledge of happiness. Why are you choosing not to do it?
That is
So-
the point. Yeah, because, all right, Corona hit, comedy stopped, going through some bad times.
And of course, COVID. Oh my goodness. We'll talk about that in a
yeah,
minute.
fucking went through a breakup. I fucking was in a dark place. Met them. Realized knowledge is the happiness, and the knowledge is there.
Right.
We're sitting here now in this fucking dope ass studio. There is a point sometimes where you're like, the low is like, all right, now it's just time to grow. Like, the pendulum has to swing the other way. So that's why I ask, is because
No,
you
you're
are
absolutely right.
very like, you're on a fucking fantastic path.
Thank you.
So I was wondering if the pendulum did hit the other side.
No, you're absolutely right, Sam. And I think sometimes it really does take getting to your absolute values to just be like, all right, this is enough. But of course, I think everyone was just going through a lot, having been on lockdown and with COVID, and a lot of things were unexpected. I know that most of us lost at least one person.
But there's people who did things, and there's people who weren't.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think all of that tension kind of just brought me to a breaking point too, where I was like, I just don't want to do any of this anymore. And all of that was related.
Because you had to finish school in...
Yeah, I was the COVID graduation class. So
I was
You were
lucky.
too, right?
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay,
1
okay.
year ahead. I'm 1 year
Okay,
ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I graduated. I graduated, but of course, we didn't get to walk the stage, and that was so important to me. I wanted so badly to be, the first grandchild to graduate from college. I wanted there was so many, that was just a.
But you were. And you
was,
are.
and I am, but I wanted them to see it.
Yeah.
But that, and then, oh my goodness, there was something that took place at the beginning of the summer where people ran wild with some different kind of rumors. It was a lot. There were a lot of things going on at the same time. But I was like, you know what? This the only thing that's making me happy right now is music. And if that's the case, then let me just do that. And everything else just has to go on the back burner, whether it's, people, things, ideas. I just need to focus on music, and this is what makes me happy. This is how I can express myself right now, so this is what I'm going to do with it.
Is that your, like, dealing with your mental health is music?
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness. Music is so therapeutic for me. So therapeutic for me. And you know what? I think all the musicians are very emotional people. I think we're probably very emotional people and creatures, but I have to put it all into the music, and it's like when I'm not able to put it all into the music, I lose my mind, and I feel like I do, really lose it. I have to have that outlet to be able to express those things, and to, that's my comfort space. I always say that I'm honored and I'm so thankful that I have the audience that I'm growing now, and thank you all for, being on this journey and this ride with us. But really, oftentimes my audience is myself. And so I think that's also what kind of shapes a lot of the sounds in my music, because I think that people can hear that I'm sort of speaking to myself, or, using myself as the audience, although I always hope that other people are listening to me speak to myself, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense. So I don't mean to be all like, oh, woe is me. But, like, stand-up is you need an audience. So when that's gone, and stand-up it was going fine. It was going fine. But then this podcast, I do this for myself. I don't really care if anyone listens to this. This is episode 102, and it's been less than a year and a half. I do it for myself, and hearing you say that, and I feel like that's when people actually start to listen, is when you're not doing it for anyone else, you're doing it for, like, what you want to do, and it affects everything else.
Absolutely.
Like, now that comedy's back, that's so much better, because I finally found something like this that's for me. I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care. I do care. As you said, I do care if people listen, but, like, this is like...
that's okay, because you still know someone's listening somewhere because you're talking to yourself.
It's important. Like, I don't know if you've ever had someone, like, come up who had, like, an emotional connection to something you've done, and that's a very, like, heavy thing to deal with, but you also realize you're on the, like, right path.
Without a doubt.
What changed in you musically once you did leave NYU and you started being like, nah, this is it?
You know what? I don't necessarily know that anything changed sonically, but I think I was just able to focus more, of course, and that really became my whole focus, and everything that I put my energy into was the music. And, really finding means to make revenue from the music as well. And so I will say with that came there were a lot of artists who were interested in my recreating other artists or other beats by other producers. And so I think from that I learned exactly what I don't want to do, which is do that. And I started thinking outside the box a lot more, because I started hearing the beats that people wanted me to create beats like, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see how far away I can get from this so that it sounds as unique as possible. And so some of those sounded so outlandish that I'll never use them.
Yeah.
But it was just a great practice and a great way to just find my own sound. And so I'm super, super excited for people to hear the project that I've been working on recently, because there's so many eclectic sounds within the project. Definitely mixing a lot of sounds. Definitely, in particular, there's a gospel drill music crossover that I'm super excited for people to hear.
I'm excited to hear that.
But
do you produce all your own stuff?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to produce for other people, or do you want to stay like...
So I love just production in general. I produce for a lot of different artists as well. But I'm very particular about my own sound. And so I think that's something so important about producing your own music when you're an artist yourself, is that it's always going to be your own sound. And so there's so many great things about collaborating. I do that occasionally as well. But when it comes to really creating a cohesive project the way I like to do it, I think the way to really create your own sound is only using the sounds that are in your head. And so that's how I try to take my approach to it, which is really just isolating myself, and everything that's in my individual head is going out there. And so I'll even, not listen to commercial records for a certain period of time or things like that, just as different practices. But really trying to channel the individualistic perspective. But that's not the right way to say it. But really trying to channel a unique perspective to sound design.
Is this your first album?
Yep. So this is gonna be the first project.
How long has it been in? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a shitty question because it's your first, because it's been like forever. But like, when did you realize, all right, I'm ready to put my first project out?
Mm-hmm. I really think it was just a matter of waiting until I felt like people were ready to hear it in its entirety, and also waiting until I felt like I was at a state in which I felt like my music had gotten to a place of maturity in which I wanted everyone to be able to hear it. Of course, timing is everything, and so I wanted to solidify the sound that I was looking for, and I wanted it to be, a project. It's really a singles game right now, so people are focused on singles, but I've really been focusing on, the cohesiveness of a project.
Do you think that's true, that it's a singles game?
I do think so, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I definitely think it's a singles game right now. I think, you can take off a lot farther with
because I'm thinking, I'm very biased because people listening to this podcast know that like Griselda fucking wearing Benny shorts and a J Ski
Shout
shirt.
out to Benny Butcher.
Shout out.
My face.
Same here, but it's like their albums and they show that they can do it independently. I don't know. I feel like singles is like a label game. I'm an outsider explaining it to someone who's in it, so I might be wrong.
No, not at all.
But like, I feel like albums and like independent is also on the rise too, and it can be shown through Griselda.
I think
and
music
others.
listeners have a great appreciation for cohesive projects, which is why I'm so adamant right now on creating a cohesive project in the midst of what I think is a singles game. And there's a lot of great things to be said about, both of those things. Regardless, a good song is a good song, a good album is a good album, a good project is a good project. But yeah.
For real, Genesis shared your song "Rollin'." Is that? And I heard it just like on Instagram, and I'm always looking for new music. That's just like, that's what this is about. And I was like, oh shit, this is like a great, like really, really fucking good.
Thank you.
Thinking, not thinking that like, oh, you really, I thought she was just like, oh, I'm sharing a friend's track. I'm not.
Sam said I'm somebody. Yeah.
You are somebody. You are. Fucking the amount of times I don't listen to a ton of like freestyles on radio shows, but the amount of times that I've listened to yours is like, and that's 10 minutes long. Like, you're fucking really like.
Thank you.
I was like, oh shit. I was like, I don't get nervous to like talk to people because I've had cool people. I've had Grammy winners on. I've had fucking big people, and I was like nervous. I was like, oh shit, she's fucking killer. Like, because you also produce your own shit, which does show the connection through. You said Kanye. Like, there's a reason. Like, your connect. Like, Touch the Sky. I would listen to that. My dad would play me that song when I was like 6 years old.
That's beautiful.
And I would like, with the sunroof open, and it's just like. There is a real connection, no matter what age, no matter what sonically, between an artist who does all of it.
Absolutely.
That was a ramble right there.
No, but 100%. See, I love it because now I know we both have ADD, so I guess we're just on the same wavelength.
Perfect.
I'm catching everything perfectly. But it didn't even sound like a ramble at all to me, but that's probably because I'm rambling too. But no, absolutely. Again, I think when really the sound game is a producer's game, and the artist is on the beat, and especially with the digital and the electronic revolution, and instrumentals are so complex now. It really is the producer who's the producer's really in charge. I'll say it that way. The producer's really,
and they're starting to get their shine more. I
absolutely.
feel.
But so when you can, the producers are dictating a full sound, and so there are a lot of. That's all of what you're hearing right now. You're hearing the top producers. So when I'm rambling too now. See, Sam, you got, oh Lord. Long story short, there's a producers.
Who do you like
right
for
now.
Producers? What producers?
I love pre-2005 Kanye West is probably my absolute favorite producer, without a doubt. I consider Miles Davis a producer as well, just because I think Miles Davis is one of the greatest composers ever. I love Miles Davis. I was a huge Scott Storch fan at one point in time in the early 2000s. And you know what? I think that Lex Luger has gotten left out of a lot of conversations, but Lex Luger really played a very important role in the trap music revolution.
Oh, what? Yeah,
I
100%.
realized that the other day. I don't hear Lex Luger's name come up often.
Never,
but
no.
shout out to Lex Luger as well. But I'd probably say Miles Davis and Kanye West, production-wise, had influenced me the most.
I would. All right. Favorite Kanye album?
Favorite Kanye album? College Dropout.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. See, don't even look. I like Life of Pablo the most, and people
Really?
get so mad at me because like
I've actually never heard someone say that before, but I respect it because I haven't heard it before.
I like concept albums, and I think that's one of the best concept albums of like all time.
I think it's very experimental, and so I give him a lot of credit for experimenting, but I don't know that it was.
I
an
like
album that
weird
really
shit.
connected
Like
to.
I don't know. I just like weird. Like I'm so happy you said Miles Davis. Like I listen to a lot of like weird jazz and stuff from the 70s. Like
Yeah.
Fela Kuti is one of my favorites, and
beautiful.
like a lot of like Brazilian stuff, and because that is the last poets. Like
That's the
shi-
backbone.
yeah, like I was able to talk to A.A. Rashid, who's that's why I asked about Blood, like the nephew of the singer of the last poet of the last poets, and musically they're so similar, and I had no idea, and I asked him if he listened to them. He's like, yeah, that's my uncle. So you say
And
like
it's
Nat
amazing
King
how
Cole
it
is so
passes
funny.
lineage.
Yeah. What you said you don't listen to like contemporary stuff now?
You know what? When I'm in a certain mode where I'm trying to create, I won't listen to contemporary stuff. But I've been listening to a lot of contemporary stuff.
All right. Who do you listen to?
Who am I listening to a lot of right now? Well, because I am sort of in my
Yeah, you're
quote-unquote mode.
when is it coming out?
So you know what? Right now, I don't have a date in mind, but I will say that September 10th, I'm releasing what is going to be really the leading single from the project called The System, which I'm super, super excited for everybody to hear. And the project will be soon after that. I was actually initially going to try to drop it at the end of this summer, but I didn't want to rush it because there were a few more songs that I wanted to add to it as well. I really want this project to represent the entirety that is Raina Simone. And so I've decided to push it back. I don't want to go later than November, but definitely going to release a few records from the album leading up to it. So
Are you
The
doing
System,
this
September 10th.
independently?
So right now it's independently.
How was that figuring out to do?
Thankfully, I have some great mentors in my corner. Hopefully, it won't be independent for long, given certain conversations. But I have a lot of great mentors in my corner. I'm now my manager JD is a great, wise individual who's also in my corner. So it's just about that. I have a lot of insightful people around me. It's definitely a struggle when you're doing it independently. In
Having
terms
a
of
team is
marketing and things
important,
like that.
though.
Absolutely. But as long as you do have a supportive team around you that wants to see you win and understands the rules of the game, then you're gonna be all right.
Do you? I mean, now that you're focusing on it, you can focus on it. But we're like COVID, like it's tough with shit opening back up. Putting time into the right things. I
Right.
feel like I get burned out now because I'm like, shit, I was focusing so much on this, and now I got to focus on this too. Is that hard, or are you able to kind of administer the same amount of time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the quarantine period definitely gave me a lot of time to master time management. So now it's not as much of a challenge.
Do you want to do a tour or anything?
I would love to. That's definitely something that we're looking forward to in the future.
Have you ever done like tour shows?
So I there was a time where I did a lot of shows, and so unfortunately, COVID kind of messed us up with that as well.
Yeah, because your music has all been released post-COVID.
So what's interesting? A lot of my actual records have all been released post quarantine. I guess technically we're still in the quarantine period.
Yeah.
But post 2021. But before that, I was still doing music, and so I was releasing certain things, a lot of which I've taken down now. But just trying to figure out different sounds, see different things. And I used to rhyme all the time, just live. And so that's sort of where I would go to figure out which lines hit and which lines didn't. Those were my practice sessions. Shout out to Sesh Collective at Howard University as well. But
Why'd you take them down?
I didn't think they represented my artistry anymore, and I still stand behind those songs. Those songs might be on a project in the future.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think my artistry is representative of something different.
Are you tough on your work?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so I'm learning to be less tough on my work because otherwise I would never release anything. So now I've gotten to a point where it's like, you know what? If 3 critical listeners think it's okay, then I'm just gonna release it. Just because I am so tough on my work. But
Can you go and watch that freestyle?
the freestyle that I did,
Yeah.
I can watch it. I can watch
How does that-
that one every once in a while.
How,
But I can't watch it too often.
How does it make you feel when you watch it?
That's a great question, Sam. You know what? My younger self is very proud. But of course, I'm so critical that I'm like, oh man,
You could've
if I
done
said it
better.
like this,
Yeah.
they would have really understood the punchline. But it's always gonna be like that, But
I have to that's so great to hear because I watch that and I'm like, oh, this is flawless. But then I'll hear not that anyone would say that about my comedy, but someone would be like, oh, that was a really good set, and then I'd be like, if I listen back to it, I'd be like, fuck that, I messed that up, I missed that. And I'm very critical, and even if it's good, I feel like I can't
and I think that just comes
enjoy
from being
it
an
to the
artist, be
full.
honest.
Yeah, but I feel like that. I don't know about you, but I feel like self-hatred pushes me forward.
Yeah.
Because I feel
That's
like
an interesting way to phrase it.
I
Sam.
feel like if I was good with myself, then I just get complacent. And the times where I've been complacent in life have been bad times. It's just no growth. I feel like I have to see every day as shit, I got to get better than the day before or nothing will happen.
And you know what? I think that's a great way to look at it too. I think that I'm definitely always competing with what I was doing the day prior, competing loosely, I'll say.
Do you drink, smoke, do hallucinogens, anything?
I do not do hallucinogens. I think that those aren't really for my people. I do smoke marijuana.
That's so funny because the guest that I interviewed yesterday just talked about literally the exact opposite that it is for, and talking with ancestors and things
no.
that.
I think that we do it in a way where it's not recreational. I think we do it in a way in which, don't get me wrong, that's definitely a part of our culture. But I think we do it in a way that's a bit more spiritual than just recreationally wanting to get high. So I'll say it that way.
You should do it spiritually. That's it 100%. I just didn't know. I was just it was very funny.
Right.
The juxtaposition
contrast.
from last night. But so
Most definitely.
no, do you drink or anything?
I drink occasionally. I'm not a huge drinker though. Not a huge drinker. Don't do hallucinogens.
I feel like
but
you're
I do smoke some weed.
Yeah,
I do
dude.
smoke some weed.
God, I feel I should. Would you have beforehand?
Say that again.
Before this, would you have?
Would I have before the interview?
Yeah.
Ask me about this, Sam.
Why didn't we? This is literally the old. I'm gonna be so honest. I assumed this is such a. You just seem so clear-minded that I assumed you didn't. We
thank
literally
you.
had smoked right beforehand. I always do with a guest.
Yeah.
I fucked up. Well, now I know what we're doing afterward.
Goofy. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
goofy
boy.
as shit. That's so funny.
I'm glad we're all on the same wavelength, Sam.
What do you
But,
do it before you create music?
You know what? I think it's very easy to abuse any substance, so I try to be careful. But it does. For me, I have really bad anxiety too, so I think it calms me down a little bit in a way where I can actually process the sounds and the thoughts that I'm hearing in my head. So it does awaken some of my creativity, depending on the strain, though. I'm an actual enthusiast, so I'm not just gonna be like, yeah, marijuana makes you creative. All strains are not gonna make you creative. But
Okay,
I
indica or
specifically-
sativa.
It really depends on the atmosphere, who I'm with, the mood, what I'm feeling like. You gotta have options.
You don't have one that you, because I'm an all day smoker and I perform at night, so I like sativa because it keeps me going and I don't have to crash when I have to go up at 12:30 or something.
I like solid hybrids. I like
Okay.
solid creative hybrids.
Have you ever tried mushrooms?
I have not. I don't plan on it either. Things like that scare me.
I'll ask you the same question off camera.
No, but you know what? Truthfully, I think I don't know why things like that scare me because I've always been paranoid that like once you do it, your brain will be permanently changed. And you know,
Oh,
personally-
100%.
Yeah, personally,
but in
I
a
like my
good
brain. I like my brain chemistry as is right now.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to tamper with it. You know, I don't know. I might come out. You guys might not hear the same lyricism from me anymore. Who knows?
Okay, I understand. When I was in that dark time that I was explaining before, I smoked DMT.
Really?
Yeah, and I broke through and I talked to my higher power, and that is a real reason that I'm on the path that I'm on now.
Interesting.
That really like shocked me into being like, now you got to get your shit together. It was
I'd
weird.
love to hear further about that experience too.
It was. Do you know what DMT is?
I'm not familiar.
This is so funny. I feel like I talk about it on so much, but it's true. It was really it's the thing that your body, your third eye. It's the thing that your third eye produces when you're born and when you die, and it's in all living things.
Interesting.
And when you smoke it in a ceremonial way, you do 3 big hits, you're supposed to go to that place where you are before you're born and after you die. And some people break through and some people don't, and it's supposedly about how your connection to your higher power is. Mine needed to tell me that I knew what I had to do and that I should be that I should get my shit together. And I did, and it was real as shit. I saw Buddha, which I thought was very surprising. Yeah. And
I wonder what that was telling you.
I don't know. I mean,
do you look at the Dhammapada often?
no.
You might be trying to tell you to pick up the Dhammapada.
I know, and it's funny because I have Buddhist friends who explain some of it to me, and I get it. But it was a weird, like, a flash. And it was real. Like, it was a real experience that was very strange.
Yeah, see, that would terrify me. I would never be the same. That would scare.
But I was in a
crap out of
dark
me.
place, and it got me out of it.
That's good.
I think if you're probably in a good place, it would. Like, there's no point for you to do it.
No, that's good, though. I'm glad that it worked.
It is funny that people have never heard of it, too. Because I've never done coke, never done pills. I don't drink that much anymore. I used to drink a lot, but I try to stay good. But I do like the spirit. After that, I'm very spiritual.
Yeah.
That like made me spiritual.
I will say the first time I ever smoked, I had a very interesting spiritual awakening. But
What happened?
That almost scared me
How
so
old
much
were
that
you?
I'll never do another drug. Oh man, Sam. Don't ask me a question like that. But you know what? I think this was. I was a late bloomer though. Like I've always
I was
been a
too.
goody two-shoes. I've
Yeah.
always been a goody two-shoes. But I think that was 11th grade. I think that was.
Oh
11th
really?
grade.
All right.
Yeah, we smoked. We smoked for the first time in Central Park.
What was it? A joint? A bowl?
It was a joint. I had one hit, and like. I was like, I'm never smoking again.
What?
Blah, 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 like,
I was about
it's a wrap.
I was
It's a
about to
wrap.
ask you who you're with, but I'm not snitching that far.
Yeah, and see, the crazy thing I was about to tell you, too, Sam.
You forget there's cameras on sometimes.
Yeah, I know. You make me feel so comfortable, Sam. That's crazy.
Oh my, yeah, nah. I've had people almost admit to bad things. No, tell what happened. What was your spiritual experience?
You know what? I really don't even remember it that often because I'm like so scared of those things. I just know that I didn't want it to happen again. So from that point forward, I was like, God,
what was
if
the
you
next
bring me
time?
through this, I'm never gonna smoke again. I won't do anything. I won't do anything.
You
I
lied.
promise.
You lied.
Well, we had a conversation after, and we were on the same page.
All right.
But long story short, yeah, I'm scared of drugs. I'll never do drugs. I'll smoke marijuana. But from that experience alone, I'll never do any other drugs because that was too much to handle. And then
Was it laced?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so though. I really don't think so.
That's
I was around
crazy.
people I
Like, I
trust.
like how
I'm
you're
very
like,
paranoid.
I smoked weed, and after that, I vowed to never do drugs except for that one
Except
drug.
for marijuana. But you know what? Like no. But I didn't though for like 4 years after that. It really that experience, that little experience in the beginning was really enough for me to be like, yeah, this is something I never want to do. And then
I never did in high school.
Yeah, high school that wasn't for me.
Never offered.
It took until my senior year of college to ever smoke another joint.
Oh,
actually.
real? You didn't do it all throughout
At all.
college.
I made it
Wow.
back,
Were
but
you
then
very?
we'd had another conversation. So
What was that conversation? How'd it come along?
you know what? I did my research. I'm like a very paranoid person. Sam. Like, I did my research on, the strands. I trusted the person I was getting it from. I was like, okay.
How do you feel about it being legal? Are you happy now that you can like trust it from?
Before they legalize weed, I want them to legalize me. That's what I.
That's
always
one
say.
of your
That's what I always
lyrics.
say.
Yeah.
So in theory, I'm as a marijuana smoker. Of course, I'm very happy that it's decriminalized, at least in the majority of spaces. But the truth of the matter is, you cross a state line, you're still going to jail for some very serious time if even a little is caught on you. And
there's also some fucked up. Now they can test it for driving legally.
Really?
They drive the prices up, which actually means the black market gets stronger because the prices are much lower than what it is legally. There is a lot of like shit that they don't really think about with it. How there's only
also even something as simple as licensing. I just don't like the idea ever that my people would go to jail for the same thing that's about to turn into $1 billion industry that
there's still
soccer moms
people
are about to
yeah.
capitalize off of. That'll forever bother me. So I don't really.
How do you
care
feel
whether it's
about
legal or
drug
not.
legalization altogether?
Now this is very interesting. Sam, I really feel like you're trying to get me canceled before I even like get to like can I get a Billboard hit first? Is that all right?
I almost came in with some. I was
My
about to be
goodness.
like, so how do you feel about touring with vaccines?
Okay, so
So which question do you want to answer? You get to pick one.
you know what? I'm gonna go with the first question.
All right.
Remind me of the first question again, Sam.
What was the first? God damn it. No, for real. What was the? Do you remember what it was, Adi?
You're talking about going on tour.
No, that's
No,
not.
but I'll answer that question.
And then you're talking about how
the
you feel about
legalization of all
legalization
drugs. Of all drugs. Okay.
I've always been somebody who believes that if someone's going to do it, they're going to do it regardless, and that unfortunately we criminalize drug use. Forget drug dealers right now. Just speaking about drug users, we criminalize drug users when really people need programs. And you got to look at. No one just decides to pick. There's a certain kind of person who's going to pick up a certain type of drug, and often that's rooted in whether it's mental health or whether it's traumatic experiences. You're trying to escape from that, depending on certain drugs. But a drug user, if you're going to use a drug, you're going to use a drug, whether it's legal or not. You're going to find a way to get it.
Or so I'm from Cape Cod, and there's this documentary, Heroin Cape Cod, USA, and Cape Cod has a lot of landscapers and a lot of workers, and they get hurt because the rich people need the landscapers and shit, so then they get hurt, and then they get prescribed pills, then they can't
then you get
afford the
addicted
pills,
to
then
it.
you get addicted to this heroin, and it's like it's
Exactly.
literally a money-making system. It is legal now. It's fucked. Sorry,
Right.
I didn't mean to just cut you off. For
No,
that
but 100%.
shit, but it's
That's
like,
that's true as well. Oftentimes, it's people who don't think that they're going to get addicted and may even be prescribed and then end up getting addicted. But nonetheless, I think that if you're going to use a drug, you're going to use a drug regardless. Is what it comes down to, whether it's legal or not. And so I think that the legalization or the illegalization rather of drugs is really just a systemic approach to trying to criminalize anyone who's trying to make money in a way that's not considered mainstream. And I think that's very dangerous because then you, of course, are targeting anybody who's not allowed to make money in mainstream occupations. And we all know who is left out of those, access to those mainstream quote unquote occupations. And I think it's just a way to, again, criminalize an entire group of people. Whether it's drug dealers or drug users, it's a way to criminalize an entire group of people who really just need help either economically or medically.
yeah,
And that's what it comes down to me.
it becomes a money-making business. Where like
Absolutely.
how much money can we make off these people?
Absolutely.
You don't have to answer this question, and I'm saying this as someone who is
I'm probably answering it
vaccinated,
anyway.
but how do you feel about like the passport mandates, especially for concerts and stuff? Because Homeboy Sandman, past guest, just had his promoters like cancel his tour for that shit, which is it's too bad.
I mean, I think any private entity is allowed to, have their own rules, and so I think that if you want to require vaccination for someone to, do something, then I think that if you're a private company, that just is what it is. I think you have the right to do that. I personally am not vaccinated, but I'm not against the vaccine. I'll say it that way. I myself am not vaccinated, but I'm not anti-vaccine.
That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I feel like health and like taking care of yourself is not put forward enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like this past year, I lost a lot of weight because I was like, shit, I gotta be healthy. I gotta like take care of myself, and that's a big thing that people don't talk about because the American healthcare system is a money making thing where it's like, how much can we drain the cow instead of keeping the people healthy in the beginning?
I think anything that's a business, of course, is going to have incentive to make money straight up like that. So,
This is so. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you all canceled. I feel bad now.
No, I don't think I'm canceled.
No,
at
I'm
all.
just kidding.
I feel okay right now.
You have the single coming out.
Mhm.
We're at like an hour. Do you have videos and shit?
I do. So the system's actually going to be released September 10th with the video corresponding. I'm very, very excited for that. I think that's probably going to be one of the records and the videos I'll stand behind.
If you get, so you produce, you make the music, do you feel like, do you do the videos? Is it hard to give away creative, like?
You know what? It is hard just because I have a lot of ideas, but there's something so beautiful about collaboration when you really trust another artist's vision. And so I do work with a lot of other visual artists as of recently, excuse me. My sister, Reagan Henderson, is somebody who I work with all the time. Shout out to Reagan. We're a creative team together. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my little sister. And my little sister does a lot of my videos. So, I'm so grateful and so thankful for that. That, again, in terms of talking about that lineage and sometimes the ideas and the energy that's just passed through your veins, we're on different pages often, but we're on the same page creatively a lot. So, I love the fact that I can do that with my little sister.
That's all. So she does all your videos.
Mm-hmm. As of for the most part, Forevermore was done by Spike Tarantino.
Who do you want to like produce for?
You know what? Anyone. Anyway, I think again my sound is very eclectic. Let me not say anyone. Hold on. But there's not necessarily a single artist right now that I'm looking to produce for. I think that in general I'm just excited to work with different sounds and different artists and different creative ideas in general, and I've thankfully been able to do a lot of that as of recent. Of course, someone that I really look forward to producing for would be J. Cole. I think we could create an awesome project together.
Did you like the off season?
I did. I definitely did.
I did too.
I think that it, he's really as if he needed to any further. He's really solidified his versatility and that he's here to stay. If you can successfully transition into a new decade entirely, you're crowned.
You have a favorite Cole album?
You know what? J. Cole is my absolute like.
He's your favorite?
I love J. Cole. You know what? The Come Up really impacted me. The Come Up really, really impacted me. Going Off really impacted me. That song. If it's like just, there's not a Cole project that I don't like. Born Sinner really inspired me to focus on production a lot as well, I will say. Because since then I hadn't seen in the mainstream an artist go and produce their whole album fully. So, between Nas having no features on his first project and between Cole, producing his it wasn't his first project, but his whole project, that makes me want to have no features and produce the whole project.
No features.
And just do it like that. So, we'll
Are you going to
see.
stay with that, or do you want
We'll
features
see.
on your shit?
I'm saying that as of now, but we'll see. Again, I think there's something beautiful about collaboration.
Yeah.
There are a lot of beautiful things about collaboration when you find someone whose sound really meshes with yours, or even someone whose sound doesn't mesh with yours, and they create something that you wouldn't expect. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I speaking of weird just collaborations, I was thinking about this. is because he did Forbidden Fruit because it was right around that time. I saw Kendrick open up for Steve Aoki,
Really?
which was such a weird, weird mesh of sonically. And Forbidden
I
Fruit is
know.
my favorite song off Born Sinner.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I
That's
really
interesting.
like that song.
Okay.
It's a weird beat. I like weird stuff.
I think mine's probably Niggas Know.
That's a good one.
That flow. Yeah.
All right, who's your top? Do you have a top 3 if Cole's your number 1?
Absolutely. And I never really name it in order. I wouldn't necessarily say
No,
number
no.
1. But I love Jay-Z, love Cole, love Big Pun. I would probably say
Really?
if I had to narrow it down to, oh my goodness, I left out Tupac. I gotta leave the interview, Sam.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
I'll
sorry.
see you later.
But see, it's three is not enough. 3 is not enough. There's so many people who have impacted me in ways that more than I can even express properly in words. Tupac, Cole, Jay-Z, and Big Pun though, together as a unit, I would say that and Nas. See, if we keep going, I'm just gonna keep adding people. But
It makes sense in your flow and your style though.
yeah,
Especially the Big Pun, I'm not gonna lie.
really,
Yeah,
that's interesting. Huh.
cause you have not deeper, but you have a deeper rap voice.
Okay.
Not deeper. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally know what you're
like
saying. That's not bad.
I
put
hear
a little
that.
bass in it sometimes. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I hear that. And
For sure.
thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Sam. It was a
Thanks for
pleasure.
being interrogated.
It was great. You know what? A lot of interviews, I feel like people don't really get to know me because it's all surface level. So I'm glad that, now people know me a little bit more.
And we're gonna not go smoke.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Do you want to plug your shit?
September 10th, the system is dropping. I'm super excited for you all to hear it. I can't wait. I hope you all are as excited as I am. Thank you again, Sam. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. Peace.